So I'm a member of the Greens organised group within the Green Party, which is essentially an internal grouping of left-wing socialist members of the Green Party trying to move the Green Party's policy prospectus to a lot more kind of radical and socialist in terms of its economics and its messaging. We backed Zach Polanski in the leadership election. Just recently, we backed his platform of eco-populism. And I feel like we're doing a really good job at finding a way of bringing people together to be able to campaign, both internally and externally within the Green Party and outside the Green Party, to bring people not only to our positions within the Green Party, but people who agree with our positions on the outside to the Green Party. That's what Greens Organise has been doing from the start. And one thing that we've been very clear about from the start is making the Green Party's external communications a lot better, understanding how to get involved in the new media landscape to try and sell the politics of the Green Party to people outside the tent and get people involved with understanding our positions and trying to at least push the Green Party and Greens organisers' political positions within the social media ecosystem, right? So we've done a lot of bits and pieces, both going after Labour, going after the Tories, getting clips of things from YouTube that we agree with, putting up on TikTok, short-form content on Instagram, to be able to make people more aware of both what's going on politically and what the left and the Greens' positions on these are. Because people don't know our positions. They think we're a single-issue party for the environment, which we aren't. We oppose the economic prescriptions of the mainstream parties too. And you can sign up at greensorganise.uk if you'd like to get involved. Thank you for the link, Andy Carter, in chat. One of the things that we have been doing, in fact, somebody who is somewhat affiliated with this channel has been doing for Greens Organise, is producing content which are these little explainer things around policy or around political connections of people that we are opposed to. So there's a really good video that we did about donors to Rachel Reeves. We did a really important thing about the political positions of Reform UK. And we just recently, the other day, put up an explainer video about the financial interests of the Liberal Democrats, which you can see on the screen just here. I'll leave the link in the description so you can watch in your own time, or I guess you can pause and read the captions which are on the screen for you. Either way, we put up this piece of content going after the people who donate to the Liberal Democrats and how, as a member-led party in the Greens, we are essentially different to the Liberal Democrats being a liberal centrist party, really, who are funded by quite rich people who share their liberal outlook on the economy. So we looked at 3 different donors who have some pretty sketchy past and how that conflicts with the purported interests of the Liberal Democrats. And people weren't happy. People were not happy about the fact that we were going after the Liberal Democrats on Instagram and on TikTok in the comments, saying things such as one thing that you can see on screen. That's really unfair. I'm a Green Party member, but Ed is a decent bloke and a very good local MP. He's been pushing progressive positions and has not been neutral on Palestine or Trump or Farage attacks on migration. Really disappointed with this from you guys. Thought you had more integrity than this. Completely disappointing content. This is not what the left is about. Why are you spending your time trying to bring down the Liberal Democrats? Surely you need to focus on the bigger parties. I'm sure there's unethical funding of most political parties if you look deep enough. Greens on their own won't win in my opinion, and I love what you stand for, but I'm so over political slanging matches. Just focus on what you can offer and not the failings of other parties. We all know that pretty much all political parties do dodgy things to get themselves into positions of power, to be honest. Come on, the Green Party is better than this. We don't need to do slagging off other parties. Let's talk about what we stand for and demonstrating how great we are. If we must talk down other parties, let's focus on those we have huge differences from. Okay, right. Do people just have complete amnesia about the reality of what the Liberal Democrats have done in their time politically? We're just kind of like forgetting about the history of the Liberal Democrats up to this point. Oh, well, they're different, right? They've stood up to the billionaires. They've stood up to the Trump and Farage attacks on migration, as the comments made. I'm like, okay, maybe we can have those points. I have put out a whole video on this channel actually saying that I think that Davey and Cooper's positions on the geopolitics of Atlanticism are a welcome break from the kind of Atlanticist politics that we get from Tory Reform Labour, right? And they've been okay on Palestine too, but that's as far as this goes, right? That's absolutely as far as this goes. We have a real problem, actually, I think, in that whilst the base of the Liberal Democrats is mostly high earners, they are the richest cohort of voters. In fact, you look at the last election, the only party that really saw all of their votes increase as you went up the income spectrum was the Liberal Democrats. They have a rich voter base. But a lot of young people think that they're just a nominally progressive centre-left party. That is not the case. That is fundamentally not the case. I have a whole video on my channel called The Liberal Democrats Are Garbage, and Here's Why. And it lists off all of the sins of the coalition, right? I don't think I need to go over what they were like in coalition, but people keep saying that they're like different now. That they're a different party, and they just aren't. Ed Davey wrote a chapter in the Orange Book, i.e. the Liberal Democrat right-wing neoliberal Bible. He is not from the Social Democratic wing of the party. When it comes to economic policy prescriptions, they don't support taxing private schools. They don't support the reforms to agricultural property relief. They didn't support increasing broader taxation to fund public services, and they have always supported running a budget surplus. They are monetarists and liberal on the economy in every possible way, and pointing out the fact that they are also funded by quite rich capitalists, which you will see in the video if you look at Green's Organise's account on socials, right? That it's clear that anyone who can get millions of pounds from Lord Sainsbury probably isn't going to be a progressive social democrat or even a progressive liberal when it comes to the economy. They have ruled out things such as wealth taxes. In fact, whilst Christine Jardine, before the election, refused to apologise for the coalition's austerity problems, literally went to proactively justify the austerity in a conversation with Nish Kumar by bringing up Liam Burns' note in the Treasury about there being no money left, like the lie that the nation's finances are like a household budget, right? These aren't people who are progressive on the economy. Not in any sense of the word. No. That's not true. Ed Davey, the very same. Lib Dem leader Ed Davey refuses 6 times to say whether coalition-era austerity was a mistake, and denied that those policies partly implemented alongside the Conservatives were to blame for the current crisis facing the NHS. Even when you speak to Liberals Democrats, they will say 9 years of the Conservatives and not 14 years, because they don't think that that counts when they were in coalition, even though they waved through budget after budget that led to hundreds of thousands of people dying from cuts and austerity. Over 800 times Ed Davey voted with the coalition government, because he was a minister for a long portion of that, and at no point did he see fit to go, maybe all of these swinging cuts to things that are important for the poorest in society, maybe I shouldn't vote for this and I should step down as a government minister. But no, power was more important to him. Power was more important. But people will say, but no, Helena. Ed Davey, he cares about send. He cares about what's happening in terms of people's access to education for disabled people, right? He opposed the government's reforms to PIP. Well, this was Ed Davey at the Liberal Democrat conference last week.
But there's also a case on welfare expenditure where we've got to reduce that too. One of the things that the Conservatives did so badly, they got rid of face-to-face assessments for personal independence payments. And when they did that, they did it initially for the right reasons, because it was during the pandemic, but they kept it on afterwards. And what's happened since then, a massive increase in the number of people claiming PIP. And there's a real suggestion in those numbers, by the way the Conservatives manage the system, that there's quite a lot of fraud there. And surely everyone can agree we should go after the fraud to make sure the people who need the benefits, the people who are really disabled, can still get them.
So that would mean cuts in welfare?
Well, it would mean stopping fraud, yes.
So there is Ed Davey just openly parroting the abject lie that there is fraud in the PIP system. This is a total, unmitigated lie. This is a man who people say, oh, he's got a disabled son. He cares about the disabled, right? He cares about these people. Oh, no, it's really important, what he's saying about send and things like that. And I'm like, this guy is advocating for cuts to disability by lying about the idea that there is PIP fraud. We quite literally have the data. So 2024, half of which was when the Conservative Party were in government, the period that he is criticising, the fraud rate, 0. Claim on error, 0.3% of total PIP expenditure. It's one of the lowest fraud rates in any sector of the welfare state. Any sector. Out here, just openly telling blatant lies. to justify the same kind of cuts that he happily waved through hundreds of times when he was in a coalition government with the Conservatives as an Orange Book Liberal. So all of these people getting mad, going, oh, you can't attack the Liberal Democrats. You can't attack the Lib Dems, right? You can't go after the Liberal Democrats. They're on our side. Bullshit. They are not on our side, right? Sure, maybe you can justify like a tactical vote in the southwest if you live in a leafy southwest village and it's the only way of stopping the Tories or reform. Sure, be my guest. You live in Twickenham, you live in Maidenhead, right? It's only the Lib Dems beating the Tories or reform there. Go nuts, see if I care. But there is a huge group of young people who do not know what the coalition was like, who do not know what the Liberal Democrats are like, who do not know fundamentally what these people believe and what they would do if they got any amount of access to political office. When they're in local government, it's all NIMBYism anyway. It's all there to protect the interests of their very wealthy voter base. Their very wealthy voter base who fundamentally want to see their house prices go up, which is why, on a local level, NIMBYs keep blocking development of things like council housing. It's just, fundamentally, they are still part of the same macroeconomic failed system that the Green Party fundamentally stands against. And progressives, socialists, even liberals and social democrats should be opposing, or at least progressive liberals. Centrist liberals like the Lib Dems obviously are part of that same failed paradigm. But if you want to actually radically change society to make life better, not just for the young people, who I think are being essentially conned by the Lib Dems because they came of age post-coalition, right? But broadly to save things like the planet, we need to go after the Lib Dems on policy and on the fact that they are, again, as a Liberal Party, very happy to take money from the super rich, which we in the Greens do not do. And your party wouldn't either. So people who are part of that sector of the left would also agree that going after the Lib Dems is reasonable. But everyone somehow believing that this grand coalition that we would need to be able to push back Reform UK, or the Labour Party or the Conservatives, who think the Lib Dems should be part of this?
So the Lib Dems, if there's any justice in this world, will go nowhere near government.
So you're reversing privatisation, the Liberal Democrats disagree, we should.
They're out.
I'm sorry, mate, you live in fantasy land. You absolutely live in a fantasy realm where just because the Lib Dems are admittedly pretty good on trans rights, for example, does that really justify Ed Davey literally going out there and lying about PIP fraud? I don't think it does. I really don't think that it does. And there's a reason why they oppose all these government measures to make the economy fairer, given that it's their wealthy voter base which would be inconvenienced by such reforms. And also, they want to ban union funding, trade union funding for political parties, which is the cleanest money in politics. So I would take what they say about political integrity with a pinch of salt. I think it is, given that young people are where the Greens do best with, an imperative that we make sure that these people know exactly what the Liberal Democrats are like. It is not splitting. It is not attacking people on the same side to make young people understand the reality of liberal capitalist governance, which is what the Liberals have done every time they've had access to any amount of power. They split the vote to take votes away from Michael Foot before. They split the vote to take votes away from Jeremy Corbyn. And they're going to split the vote away from the Greens moving forward if young people in this country don't get the full idea of the reality of what the Liberal Democrats are like. And whilst people were in the comments of that Instagram post saying things like, well, we need to talk about what we're good at. And I'm like, well, no, you also have to cut through the bullshit too. I think that the Greens Organise has been really good at putting forward a positive perspective about what we offer as a political grouping, as a political ideology, and as a party. I think we've done a really good job of that. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be posting and making content explaining why you shouldn't vote for the other side. We are better both on policy and we also have higher integrity. And to be able to make that comparison, you both need to understand the political ideology and the political policy prescriptions and the funding models of the other parties as well as ours to be able to make an informed judgment on both. And that's why content that is going after the Lib Dems is important for the left to do. So people, for some reason, who think that the Greens are just like part of some kind of progressive coalition with the Lib Dems, is just not true. It just fundamentally is not true. In the wisest of words of Patrick Stewart portraying Vladimir Lenin, do not trust the Liberals. they will betray you. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for membership to just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.